The night the war came home, a precision strike at the heart of Russia's war machine. The persistent, low hum was the only warning. It was not the air raid siren of Ukrainian cities, a sound now tragically familiar to the world. This was a different sound, one of intrusion, of defiance, of a shifting paradigm. On a seemingly ordinary night, the skies over the Moscow region, long considered an insulated sanctuary of power far from the front lines, became a battlefield. Ukrainian drones, traversing hundreds of kilometers of Russian territory, zeroed in on a target of immense strategic value: the $3.1 billion ammunition plant in Solnechnogorsk, a key node in Russia's military-industrial complex. The subsequent explosions were not just a detonation of stored artillery shells and propellant charges, they were a detonation of assumptions. They illuminated the stark reality that no corner of the Russian war machine was beyond reach. But the strike itself was merely the opening act. The true story lay in what happened next. The frantic Russian response, the global shockwave, the intricate dance of propaganda and counter-propaganda, and the profound strategic recalibration that this event forced upon both sides. This is not just the story of a single drone attack. It is a deep dive into the anatomy of a modern strategic strike, the brittle facade of Russian air defense, the ingenious evolution of Ukrainian ingenuity, and the terrifying new chapter of escalation it heralded in the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian War. Part 1. The target, citadel of the arsenal. The Solnechnogorsk plant. To understand the magnitude of the strike, one must first appreciate the target. The facility near Solnechnogorsk, approximately 60 kilometers northwest of Moscow city center, was not merely a warehouse. It was a crown jewel in Russia's military-industrial landscape, a modernized plant integral to the nation's artillery-centric doctrine, a pillar of Russian military power. Artillery is the god of war, a mantra deeply embedded in Russian military doctrine. The war in Ukraine has been, more than anything, an artillery duel of historic proportions, consuming shells at a rate unseen since World War II. The Solnechnogorsk plant was a critical manufacturer and refurbisher of precisely these shells, 152mm and 155mm rounds, as well as propellants, fuses, and components for guided munitions. Its reported $3.1 billion valuation reflected not just its physical infrastructure but its irreplaceable role in sustaining the relentless barrage on Ukrainian positions in Donbass, Luhansk, and Zaporizhia. Geographical and psychological sanctuary. Its location was deliberately chosen. Far from any international border, nestled deep within the heart of Russia's most defended airspace, the Moscow military district, it was deemed a safe asset. This perceived safety was psychological as much as it was strategic. It allowed for the continuous, unimpeded flow of munitions to the front lines, a vital artery in the logistics chain keeping the Russian war effort alive. Striking it was the equivalent of a surgeon severing a major artery, not just pricking the skin. Part 2. The instrument of delivery. The long arm of Ukrainian ingenuity. The successful strike was a testament to Ukraine's remarkable and rapid evolution in unmanned aerial warfare. These were not the small, commercially available drones repurposed for trench warfare. This was a sophisticated, long-range drone operation. The UJ-22 Airborne, or a new Ghost. While no official confirmation was immediately provided by Ukraine, a standard practice of strategic ambiguity, military analysts immediately pointed to the UJ-22 Airborne, a Ukrainian-made unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV. The UJ-22 has a reported range of over 800 kilometers and a payload capacity of up to 20 to 30 kilograms, making it perfectly suited for such a mission. Alternatively, it could have been a new, undisclosed variant or a modified commercial aircraft engine-powered drone, developed in secret. The route of the Ghosts. The flight path was a marvel of evasion. To reach Solnechnogorsk, the drones would have had to navigate through multiple layers of Russian air defense, including the much-vaunted Pantsir S-1, S-300, and S-400 systems protecting the capital. They likely flew at very low altitudes to avoid radar detection, following terrain contours and possibly exploiting known gaps or corridors in Russian radar coverage. This mission required impeccable intelligence, precise programming, and a degree of stealth that Russia had arrogantly assumed Ukraine could not achieve. The payload. The drones were not carrying massive warheads. The genius of the strike lay in its precision. A relatively small explosive payload, delivered with pinpoint accuracy to a vulnerable point. A storage bunker filled with volatile propellants, a production line for shell casings, a power substation, could trigger catastrophic secondary explosions. This is exactly what happened. The initial blast was followed by a chain reaction of detonations, turning the plant into an inferno and multiplying the destructive effect far beyond the drone's limited payload. Part 3. The Night of Fire. A minute-by-minute account. Based on open-source intelligence, OSINT, social media footage, and later official statements, a timeline of the event can be reconstructed. T-2 hours. Final checks. In a hidden location in Ukraine, a team of operators and engineers makes final checks. Coordinates are confirmed. Flight paths are uploaded. The drones are launched, beginning their long, silent journey northeast. T-30 minutes. Russian early warning? It is unclear if Russian air defense radars picked up the faint, low-flying signatures. If they did, they may have been dismissed as birds, whether anomalies or false contacts, a fatal complacency bred by the assumption of invulnerability. T+midnight. Penetration. The first drone breaches the perimeter of the facility. It may have been visually spotted by guards moments before impact, but it was too late. The first explosion rocks the night. T+002 to 015. Cascading failure. The primary strike ignites its target. Within seconds, the fire spreads to adjacent storage areas. Then, the first major secondary explosion occurs. A thunderous blast that lights up the night sky, captured on dozens of dashcams and mobile phones by startled residents. A series of further explosions follows. A symphony of destruction as stockpiled ammunition cooks off. T+020. Social media erupts. The first videos appear on Telegram channels. Explosions near Moscow. What was that? The shock is palpable. The Kremlin's information firewall begins to crack under the weight of civilian-reported evidence. T+1 o'clock. Official silence. Russian authorities are silent. Emergency services are reported heading to the scene, but no official statement is made. The delay is telling. The system is in shock. T+2 o'clock. The first muted response. Russian state-affiliated news agencies, like TASS, release brief, sanitized statements. An incident involving a drone occurred at an industrial facility in the Solnechny-Gorsk district. A fire was quickly extinguished. There are no casualties. The scale of the explosions, visible from kilometers away, immediately renders this official line laughable. 1. The illusion of invulnerability shattered. The most immediate impact was psychological. For the Russian elite in Moscow and the military command, the strike was a profound embarrassment. The message was clear: your most advanced air defenses are porous. Your strategic depth is an illusion. If Ukraine can hit a target 60 kilometers from the Kremlin, it can hit any target. This forces a massive and expensive reallocation of resources. Air defense systems guarding the front lines may now be pulled back to protect strategic assets deep inside Russia, creating vulnerabilities that Ukraine can exploit elsewhere. 2. A direct blow to logistics and sustainment. This was not a symbolic strike. The destruction of finished shells, raw materials, and production machinery had a tangible, mathematical impact on Russia's ability to wage war. Western intelligence agencies estimated that the strike set back Russian artillery shell production by weeks, if not months. At a time when Russia is already scouring the globe for ammunition from North Korea and Iran, the loss of domestic production is a critical blow. It directly translates to a reduction in the daily volume of shells Russian batteries can fire on Ukrainian troops, saving Ukrainian lives and altering the calculus on the battlefield. 3. The empowerment of Ukrainian strategy. The success of the strike validated Ukraine's deep strike doctrine. It proved that their homegrown drone industry could deliver strategic effects at a fraction of the cost of a conventional missile. This greenlights further investment and ambition in long-range UAVs. The next generation will have longer ranges, larger payloads, and better stealth characteristics. The strike was both a tactical victory and a strategic proof of concept. 4. The Kremlin's dilemma of response. The Russian high command was left with a series of bad options. How do you respond? Escalation. Launch a massive missile barrage on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure in retaliation? This had already been done repeatedly with diminishing returns and only served to solidify Western support for Ukraine. Threaten nuclear weapons? This had lost much of its potency through overuse and carried unimaginable risks. Do nothing. This was politically impossible domestically, as it would make the regime look weak. Strike a Western target? Too risky, likely to trigger Article 5. Russia's eventual response was likely a mix of intensified but futile air attacks on Ukrainian cities and a renewed, brutal offensive on the front lines in an attempt to regain the initiative and distract from the humiliation. A costly and bloody endeavor. 5. The Western reaction. A quiet nod. Officially, the United States and other NATO members maintain a public distance from Ukrainian strikes inside Russia, often reiterating their policy of not encouraging or enabling such attacks. Unofficially, there were likely quiet celebrations in the Pentagon and other Western defense ministries. The strike demonstrated that Ukraine could effectively degrade Russian military capacity with its own tools, a key goal of Western support. It alleviated pressure to provide even longer-range missiles like ATACMS, as Ukraine was proving it could develop its own capabilities. Part 6. The New Normal. The Era of the Deep Strike. The Solnechny-Gorsk strike was not the first, nor would it be the last. It was, however, a landmark event that normalized deep strikes into Russian territory. It marked a definitive end to the early war paradigm where fighting was largely confined to Ukraine.